From Function, no, I already messed it up. From Press Red. From Press Red, welcome to Function. This is episode 1. My name is Mac Blackman, and I am joined by Eli Toure. Hello.
Hey, how you doing, Mac? You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Good. It's great to kick it off. First episode. Let's do it.
Woohoo. So this podcast is a tech and organization talk where we just discuss new tech things from your point of view of being an Apple user, and my point of view being a Windows and Linux user.
Yeah.
Although I'm named Mac, I don't use Mac.
Love it.
I first wanted to kind of wonder, what social medias do you use?
Do you know what? Because of my age, which I will not disclose, I'd say I'm kind of halfway on the social media, and I need to get more adept to it. At the moment, I've got a Twitter page. I've just signed up to TikTok.
Oh no!
I know, and it is so addictive, but we can talk about that later. And I'm really mostly on Instagram and Facebook.
See,
how about you?
I've primarily been a Twitter user for a very long time. I would say Twitter and Pinterest were my first ever social medias I ever got.
Okay.
But it's interesting because Twitter has changed a lot over the period of time that it's had. It started off with kind of just a bunch of nerds talking online, and then ended up being such a huge space for news.
Yeah, do you know what? I signed up to Twitter in 2007. So there you go.
I don't remember when I first signed up. I might have been on Twitter since 2010, if I remember correctly.
I've probably tweeted about 5 times in that span of 16 years. So.
See, I don't tweet that much, and I have a Twitter account. But the main thing that I use Twitter for is news, which is bad. Right. I don't use it for like political news. I use it for tech news, for companies I'm following that I want to know about. Yeah. Say if like a podcast company is starting a new subscription feed or a new podcast, I will then get an update through Twitter that that's happening.
I mean, it's great for that, right? It's great for being current and skipping steps in a way, not waiting for someone to publish that information. I've just got to train my brain to adapt to that.
I've always treated social media as an advertising system. Even when I used to do DJing, which I know you also did, I've only ever used it for going, look, I'm doing this thing on this day. I've never used it for, I'm eating lunch.
Yeah, it's great for marketing, right? And self-marketing. I just feel like you still have to be at your core as a person to be able to self-promote. You have to be that type of person in real life. And when I was younger, we used to market parties. So we'd put on big parties, and that's how we make money, get people to come to our parties. And so we'd go around and give flyers out. And I was never one of the people that could go up to a stranger and say, come and see me, I'm really great. I'd be the person who was there performing and being really great, but I couldn't tell people that I was really great. And I feel like I've got that same barrier now. We're in this kind of digital world. It's quite difficult to do that self-promotion online, I think.
Oh, I'm terrible at it. With the whole of Press Red, I've never been good at advertising or even setting a schedule for when advertisements go out. I'm absolutely terrible at doing that.
Yeah.
Usually I try and convince myself to do it after a couple of days and go, I probably should put an advertisement for this new thing coming out somewhere.
I think what you need to do is, and what I need to do, I'm speaking to myself really, is get into your head that online, as much as they talk, no one actually really cares. The day after, no one's thinking, why did Eli say he's so great? Who does he think he is? And I think about that like I do in the real world, you know? But no one really cares because everybody's shouting into this void, and you kind of get lost in it anyway, and you might get the attention of a few people.
Yeah. The main reason why I wanted to bring up the whole social media thing is because I recently left Twitter. I still have an account on Twitter, but Twitter, when they announced that they're adding a paywall to their security systems, I was like, I'm out. I can't deal with that anymore. I have to leave Twitter. And I was going to, after listening to a podcast called Cortex, my plan was to stop doing social media altogether and just leave it out and not be interested in it.
Right.
But I discovered Mastodon, which I still think is a terrible name for social media platforms.
It just reminds me of Power Rangers, but carry on.
I've just, it's a fascinating new system. It's entirely run differently to Twitter. It's not one company that's hosting everyone's data. It's, if people want to set up a server, they can put a server on it, and then you can join it and communicate with other servers.
So is it Twitter for real geeks?
Yeah, it's Twitter for real geeks, which does worry me that it might not become mainstream, which is both good and bad, because I use Twitter, as I said, to follow news, and if there's no one going there, then I can't really use it. It just becomes empty.
Yeah, and that's the problem with these platforms. They have to be, they're all running on advertising. They need some sort of revenue stream. So they need to be mainstream. And in the end, mainstream is all pretty much the same, bland, and they'll all get to that same place. They're big or they fail.
Luckily, it does seem like it's picking up a big community already.
I'm checking it out as we speak.
It's very confusing to set. Yeah, it's very confused to set up. I set up when I first signed up for Mastodon. I thought it was like Discord, where you have a different account sort of for each server you join, but it turns out it's not like that. You set up one, like I'm with Mastodon apps.uk, and it that means I can now communicate to other servers within it. Not that I have to sign up for each server and stick to that server.
Okay. I mean, that's interesting. Let's see where it goes. I guess, who runs Mastodon? Is it an individual? Is it a big conglomerate? Or how's it run?
I don't know, actually. I think it's a mediocre kind of company. I imagine maybe 20, at most 20 people working on it, possibly. But it's not really about them anymore, is it? They set up the tools and other communities use it, is what it's like. It's like an open source Twitter, really.
Okay. That sounds cool.
I've been really enjoying it recently. I have been actually thinking of setting up my own server with something like AWS or something like that, just so I can get possibly just one closed off press red, because it does also mean when those servers go down, and they go down often with Mastodon app.uk, you don't have access to the internet, which does bring up an interesting idea that maybe, because my dad talked about this a couple of years ago, because he doesn't like social media. Imagine if, like, every week on a Wednesday, let's say, it closes your the server's not on, it's just off.
Right, so you can have a break.
Yeah, you have a break from social media. I think that's something that, because of Mastodon, could become a service you sign up for in a way.
I don't know if that would suit everybody's needs.
No, because you sign up for it, though. You would still be able to communicate with everyone else, but not all the time. You'd be limited on a certain day that you agree with everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll see where it goes. Nothing nowadays matches my first ever social media. Do you want to have a guess what that was?
What was that?
Microsoft 2005. No, MSN Messenger wasn't me. 2005, the year when I got it, or maybe 2006.
MySpace?
MySpace was an amazing community. That was where we were with Tom. If you know Tom, then you know Tom.
Tom from MySpace, yeah.
That's right. I don't think he was actually a real person, but Tom was everybody's friend. It was great. It was simple. You could host, you could have 8 top friends, at least in the first few years. You could put your music up and put a few comments about how you feel that day. That's about as much as I'd like to share online. And I'm kind of still there.
So I guess what you're referring to now then would be a blog, pretty much.
Essentially, yeah. A blog that you don't have to manage yourself.
Yeah.
And then I suppose now one social media you have to have is a LinkedIn page.
I don't have one. I've never looked into LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's essential when you're out in the work world fully.
I know it's like a job hiring one, right? LinkedIn.
It's a job hiring. It's a progress sharing. It's a look at me. I'm great at what I do. Keep me in mind in case I lose my job next year.
It's a backup.
Yeah, but it's really interesting as well because it does get you thinking about career paths and avenues and things that you could do to improve your skills. It's essential.
Now, I'm going to move this on to a topic that I wanted to discuss with you, and the main reason why we started this podcast is because I watched an episode of your podcast, Where the Key's At, and you were talking about a chat GPT.
Oh, yes.
Which is the new AI that everyone's fascinated by, including me. Because I've recently been using it just to improve certain parts of things like scripts. Yesterday, I decided I would get my script that I've written for Steamly, an entirely finished script, and give it to the Notion AI, which isn't ChatGPT specifically, but it's kind of the same thing.
Okay.
And it entirely wrote my script, but better. So I'm tempted to use it, but I'm kind of in blurred of, am I allowed to use it?
I think AI makes you feel, with me, it makes me feel like it said exactly what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't put it together in that way. And then there's this conflict within me, like, I'm not there yet. So should I use it? And I do think those lines are going to be blurred very quickly. The next 6 months to 18 months, I think we're going to really normalize using these AI algorithms or AI generated replies to sell ourselves. Talking about LinkedIn, people's profiles are all going to be AI profiles in the next 2 years.
Really?
I'm guessing so. If I put my CV into LinkedIn, it's going to write a covering letter 10 times better than I can.
That's true. It could even write a CV for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess it is a bit scary, especially from my perspective as an educator, as a lecturer. It's concerning because you're no longer, or you will potentially no longer be measuring the intelligence or the thoughts or the creativity of a young person. And you'll have to find other ways to measure that learning.
Yeah. But does it not also help people who are terrible at writing improve their writing skills? Well, not their skills, but help communicate their idea better?
In the short term, yes.
Yeah. I do find it interesting, the effect, how much it will change over the next period of like a year or so. What will people decide is what AI can be used for and what will AI not be used for because that's not right?
Well, that's already started, hasn't it? If you go onto ChatGPT, one of the first things I done was try to put in my investment portfolio and see what it suggests. And it said, I cannot make suggestions on, stocks and shares, etc. Basically because they've programmed it with a set of limitations or morals, if you like.
The biggest limitation that they've got is the fact that it's not up to date.
It's not up to date, 2021, I think, but it can still recognize trends and look at the history of individual stocks and things like that, but it refuses to. So although it's AI and the big scary thing is that it's going to take over, it's still being limited by humans, man. And it can't undo that. And that makes me think about who's behind these things. And as you know, Microsoft are trying to buy up ChatGPT. They've invested a lot into it. And then they'll have the technology, but they won't share parts of it, which will surely give them an unfair advantage over other companies or other individuals.
Yeah. I'm more worried with ChatGPT's perception of Microsoft's use of it. Because they've limited it a lot. They've even removed some of the fun stuff. Although it was getting pretty scary what questions you could ask it. That's probably why they've limited it. A couple weeks ago, I think someone asked it, what is your opinion on the human race? And it just answered it, and it wasn't a good answer. So Microsoft just went, no, you can't do that anymore. Replace it with emoji instead.
Well, exactly. I mean, okay, so Microsoft in the year 2030 do something really bad and they want to cover it up, are they going to let ChatGPT answer those questions? Or something happens that will affect Microsoft's share price or, value? Do you think they'll let ChatGPT speculate on that? It can always be used for harm. Technology is always manipulated by big companies. And I think we have to worry about that more than we worry about individuals making a CV with ChatGPT. The potential is amazing. I think it's just going to be bought up by the big boys and it will become a bit dull quite quickly.
Yeah, I agree. I think it will become pretty dull quite quickly.
One interesting thing that Microsoft did say, no, it's fine. One of the exec team, I think it was the head, what's the head of Microsoft called?
Oh,
I forget his name now.
I don't know either.
But he was asked of what he sees in the future, and he suggested that they're going to charge a fee for basically a corporate version of it, and that will be used for legal defenses, he thinks, in the future. And that blew my mind, because I thought, well, actually, you could be an individual who could spend, I don't know, maybe $500 in a month on this software, which seems like a lot, but for a legal defense that knows every law and every trend and every potential outcome, it could change your life.
That law one, I've already heard that people have got law AIs that have solved one case already, actually.
There you go.
So that's interesting. I think AI chat is interesting. What terrifies me is AI art. Because of the area that both me and you are interested in, which is media, once it starts replacing that for us, that's quite terrifying.
It is. And I like to think that people can tell the difference, but I don't think I don't think they will.
No. There was a video recently released by Corridor Digital where they kind of...
Yeah, I like them guys.
It wasn't exactly an AI, but they trained it to do an anime art style over the top of what they've done, which is very very interesting for those who cannot draw that art style.
Yeah.
Because they're CGI artists. They're not hand-drawn anime artists. But is that not copywriting someone else's work now?
Well, that's one of the big debates with artists around AI. It's not ever completing anything original. It's borrowing from more places, basically, and then making an interpretation based on what it thinks we want to see, hear, or read. And it's doing very weird things like, have you noticed, or did you see on the, what's their picture one? I forgot what it's called now. The same company that makes ChatGPT.
OpenAI is the company. It's called.
I used to use it for my PowerPoints, actually, to generate images. Until I read an article about how it's stealing from artists. And in the bottom right-hand corner, where you normally put your tag or your kind of identifier as an artist, it's blurring images to get rid of those pieces. Because it knows it's not its own art, and there's a sequence of images they showed of like hundreds of images where it's kind of tried to scribble it out, basically.
That seems quite bad.
Yeah. So it's almost trained itself to say, I know these aren't mine. I know it's problematic. I'm going to get rid of that marker. DALL-E, that's the one. DALL-E 2.
Yeah.
Love it. But yeah, since then I stopped using it. I actually used DALL-E for a long time. You might have sat in one of my classes just to get images that are interesting on my PowerPoint. But also...
I had no idea that.
Yeah, because as a teacher, you have this... We have to include everybody in our images and in our examples. But some of that stuff just simply doesn't exist. So you can go onto DALL-E and say, show me a picture of a female DJing, for example, which is quite a hard image to find, or a female DJing in a classroom wearing a red top, and it would do that. So I was using that for a little while.
I actually thought, because we're doing an episode on AI, I want to do custom thumbnails for this podcast each time. So I gave DALL-E the cover of our podcast to see what it would do with it, and it entirely just messed it up and didn't understand the word function, which I thought was quite funny.
Well, so you gave it an image?
I gave it the cover of this podcast, even with the text
I didn't know
underneath.
you could do that.
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay.
I think it's a more newer thing that they added in, but it doesn't know what to do at all. It kind of just freaks out and goes, "The word functions? There's words here," and it would just put like double I's, double O's, bind them together.
One of the limitations was it can't generate words. So it generates weird kind of things that look like letters but aren't really letters. I did like that concept, but it's put me off a bit. And it kind of, what is the purpose, or what should be the purpose of AI? And there's a debate that I agree with, that AI should exist to get rid of all of the mundane tasks that humans have to do. But it shouldn't exist to replace the creative, fun things that we do to enjoy.
I kind of made a rule with Press Red that I wouldn't talk about anything political, but I'm intrigued on what, if you had an AI try and figure out how it would run the country, what would it do? What would it cut out and what would it keep? It'd be I imagine it being very harsh, but it would get it done, I imagine.
I heard Bernie Sanders, is that his name?
I think so, yeah.
The American politician, on the news last night, and he said if he would have won, there'd be no such thing as a billionaire. We don't need billionaires. And he made some interesting points. And it was a very logical perspective. He was saying, nobody needs 50 houses. And you could imagine an AI being ruthless like that and thinking, well, actually, this set of people don't need that because it's calculating, right? So I think the world might be a better place if it was ran by AI, actually.
Yeah. But
not for really rich people, though.
No. It would I guess it would try and figure out what the equal, even though I don't think humans have an equal area, but it would try and figure out. It also feels like a dystopian movie where an AI goes rogue or something.
Yeah, I don't think that's iRobot, Terminator, you name it.
Yeah.
I don't see it happening. People are saying, the Matrix, blah, blah, blah. It's just not. It's not in the interest of the people that are buying these companies out,
No. I mean, it would involve the wiping out of themselves as well.
Exactly. But we'll see. The newest thing that I've read about this week, and I know you know about it too, is the AI DJ that is part of Spotify. That's scary. I lose sleep over things like that.
I find that interesting because when I heard you discuss that, you said it was scary. For me, I didn't even notice it really. It was kind of they're doing AI DJ now, because I can't imagine it actually being good. All it's got, to me, it just sounds like an AI is doing playlisting, not really doing DJing.
Well, it is doing that, right? So they're calling it DJ. That's another debate. DJ is used in the wrong way all of the time, but basically it's a radio presenter personality. So it's doing all the AI to work out what you like and what you might like next, and kind of using that information locally and nationally, I guess. But it's generating a voice and a personality to talk between the songs and make up links and try to draw you in. That's the part that can really, potentially be amazing.
Yeah, I can't see it taking off though, because I think people tune into radio stations for the personality, the different types of music.
Yeah.
For them, you're hunting out the music. You're not getting an AI to suggest the perfect music for you.
But what if we get to the point where we don't know if we're listening to AI? Then we think that we are discovering music in that same organic way. And the reason it scares me is not because of radio, because let's be honest, radio's on its way to niche if it's not there already.
Yeah.
It's the DJ part. It's not yet a DJ, but it will soon be better than a DJ. It will soon be able to mix like a DJ. Imagine coming into a nightclub. I know you probably haven't been to many, but most of my life has been nightclubs. And every punter in that club has got a phone. They all walk into the club. the DJ, the AI knows they're in the club. It knows what they like. It knows it can do a map of the club. It knows there's 50 people on the dance floor. Most of them like this genre, and it's going to play it. It knows it's Sarah's birthday. It knows it's Claire's hen do. It's going to give them a shout out. These things are going to happen fairly soon.
I'm just imagining quite a funny situation where you go in there and they kind of go, which person here has ruined the situation by enjoying some jazz music or something?
But that happens anyway. You're DJing and you get a person who is very different to everyone else, who's persistent and goes up to the DJ and says, play my song before I go home. Or, you know, they try and charm you and you play their song and everyone walks off the dance floor. That does happen. That's happened to me, especially in my earlier years when I was a bit not concerned, but scared to say no. But yeah, it's going to happen. And it's a shame that AI is going to have an impact on art. But art will find a way to survive. We are human after all. We're still going to spend time together.
I think the most terrifying aspect I've heard about AI generated art is when AI when they generate art out of already dead people. That
What's that?
So there was, I can't remember the artist at all, but it was this artist that passed away from cancer, sadly.
Okay.
And I think they were an animator or something. No, they just did art styles, and they gave it to an AI, Dolly, I believe, in fact. And everyone was just agreed that that's not good. You can't just replicate someone who passed away. They haven't given it permission, and they can't disagree with the AI because they've already died.
It's not copyright infringement though?
No, but I think it's different for artwork that's incredibly old.
Yeah.
Because that has gone past the copyright system, right?
So essentially what are they doing? They're taking the style of that artist and recreating new works. Is that right?
Yes. And then they were selling it on, I think, in fact.
It's problematic legally though, isn't it? It's not problematic legally because you can actually do that. It happens. People who are alive imitate dead artists. I would argue what is the difference there?
Fair point.
But yeah, it's immoral for sure. But that doesn't matter. Morals don't matter.
We had this entire conversation about AI.
Yeah.
But is it really AI, or is it just an algorithm or machine learning?
Is machine learning not a variation or kind of, it is AI, machine learning?
I would disagree that it isn't AI. AI is thinking for itself. Meanwhile, machine learning, you're just it is a small wall, shall we say? They're in a classroom next to each other. Yeah, they've been taught different things.
Yeah, I could see that. There's an amazing opportunity for crime, as there is with all new technologies with AI, and that's interesting, especially with the imitation or the ability to capture someone's voice or capture someone's style. You can imagine the kind of crimes that people are going to think of. Or it's going to be interesting to be an investigator or an officer.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
I'm sure criminals are thinking about it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the better side of things, though, there is an AI platform that I have signed up for personally.
Okay.
Because I have always struggled with news. Because as I was saying, I use social medias to track news. And there are some news that just doesn't go on to Twitter. And most news apps that I sign up for also involve the day-to-day news that I don't want to know about. I would like to keep that separate. If I want to check that news, then I'll check that news.
Yeah.
But I want to use this app just to find out tech news or entertainment news.
All right.
I signed up for an AI platform called Artifact, which is an app that you don't really sign up for exactly. It's weird. You just kind of get the app, you tell it what you want, and then you're on it. There's no passwords or anything.
Oh.
It really confused me. I was expecting to put a password in and then be able to use it on my computer, but it seems to be just on my phone. But I went off on a bit of one there. Artifact is actually a a new project by the people who made Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what they've moved on to.
Yeah. After, I'm guessing, I don't know if they sold it to Facebook or just leaving Facebook. I don't actually know because I don't like Instagram. I've never really paid attention to it. But I do like their newest app because I just told it I want tech news and it has given me exactly what I've wanted since then.
What's it called?
Artifact.
Artifact. I'm going to check that out.
It's very interesting. It does have the headlines of news that's going on around the world, like top news. I don't like that. I would like them to add the feature to remove that entirely. But for the most of it, I've just got news that I've wanted the entire time from companies that I trust, like The Verge or TechCrunch.
Isn't that just like Google News or Apple News, though? That does that for me.
I never liked Google News. I tried Google News. I've also tried Apple News. Apple News was okay, but Google News was too much based on... it was pretty much just like tuning into BBC News every day. And for me, that's not what I want. Maybe for you, if you want to follow all of the news that's going on, but I want to specify what news I want to get and when.
Well, I normally go into Google News and just go to the tech segment, and it's quite good. Yeah, I like that, but I'm going to try Artifact. I've got it now. Thank you very much for that recommendation.
Before that, I used Feedly, which is just an RSS feed system. So you have to go on the website or search for it on the app itself and then add it. Okay. That means you have to find the news platforms you trust and get them.
Okay, that's too much work in 2023.
Yeah, no, too much effort. There is one last subject in this topic that I wanted to discuss, and it was kind of something I was in an interesting maths lesson. By that I meant I was very bored. I was thinking about what AI could do, and I was thinking, I don't like Windows UI, their entire operating system. I don't like how it looks, but I kind of want Apple and Windows and Linux all mixed together.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, is it possible in the future that AI generates your UI based on your
preference
style? Yeah, preference. I think that'd be really interesting if Windows, or they probably wouldn't, to be fair, but Linux would probably take it up. I think that would be a really interesting project. Yeah.
I'd love that, because there are elements of Windows that I want, but most of it I don't care for. How would that even work? Would it borrow code? Can you borrow code?
I don't know. As I was saying, it's just an idea that came across my head of like how it is interesting, because I would imagine it working like a code system. You tell it what you want, it generates a little code, and then when you go to another computer, maybe it passes over from your computer. Because I'm not just saying on your computer, I'm imagining you go to someone else's computer.
Oh, right. And it would just act like your preference.
You would never have to deal with someone else's messy background, don't know who that could be, ever again.
Well, I mean, if AI starts solving problems like that, you know what's going to happen next? We'll all just do one thing. We'll all have one style of, everything will become one, and variety is the spice of life. And it's true. Like, the more you see, the more you consider, the more you adapt, the more you change. So I don't mind being able to use Windows and Mac. Yeah, I like Mac better, but maybe I can sit with someone who likes Windows and make a new friend. There you go.
Now,
I mean, people, you could say the same, like look at vehicles. All cars are now starting to lose personality and starting to become kind of one thing.
Yeah.
And people are getting upset about that.
See, I personally, I like how they're. It's interesting because I do like how Tesla's cars look, but I also do really like the look of old classic cars. It is my dream to get an old classic car and put electric guts in it.
Yeah, people do that. I follow a couple of YouTube people who do that. I love cars. I've had 30 plus cars since I've been driving 23 years. My first ever car was a little 4-gear Renault 5 cassette player. But this car had so much personality. The gear stick had kind of a split on it, and you had to wiggle it a certain way to get into reverse. The clocks were, it was very interesting, but it was its own car. And now we're losing a lot of that personality, or a lot of moving parts really in cars and things that you can make your own, to the point that we won't even be driving cars in the next 10 years. I think in 10 years, we're going to start to not drive cars.
You reminded me of my mum used to own this red car that couldn't make it around roundabouts. Every time that you took that harsh corner around a roundabout, it just cut out every time. The worst place for it to cut out. It was very funny.
I wonder if it had some oil, when you went around the corner, it kind of couldn't get sucked up by. But yeah, I miss that, and I'm sure people who are mechanics working in the service industry for cars are really not looking forward to the future, thanks to computers and all of these IT companies and AI companies that are thinking of ways to put them out of business.
Okay, I'm going to move it on to the second and final topic. Apple AR. They're making an AR headset.
Yay!
Is interesting to me, but I wouldn't buy one because knowing Apple, it's going to be expensive, and I think they said it's going to. Someone predicted it's going to be like 5,000 or 3,000,
$3,000 to £5,000.
Yeah, so much. But then knowing Apple, it's probably going to be good. They're going to tested it fully and made sure that it kind of works to the extent that it's usable to most of their fan base, because it's not like Windows or Linux where people got to kind of modify it a bit to their heart's content to get it to the way they want it to be. But when it comes to Apple, they kind of limit you down. You are doing this.
Yeah. Because they know that's what people want. The majority of people want to be told what to do and just to get on with it. But is AR where the majority of people are going to go? I think that's, especially spending 3,000 and upwards, you're going to get the enthusiasts who know what they're talking about going there, and surely they're going to want full control.
There was a very interesting post that I saw on Twitter a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. And it was of someone with an AR headset on. I think it was the Microsoft Glass one. And they'd programmed it that all they had to have in front of them was a keyboard. They put down the keyboard, and an entire operating system came up with the tabs that the windows he swapped to, the shortcuts will load up. It sounds like a dream to have. Yeah. That's why I would get it. I would get it so I could have 4 screens around me and be in paradise when it comes to technology. But I also wonder, is that healthy for you?
I don't know. Think about it, right? I saw MKBHD had something similar that he tested out, and that piqued my interest. Being able to have screens around you while physically using up space and generating heat or whatnot in the space you're in. But you are going to use that, Mac, when you're in 20 years time. The office is going to have that stuff. The office are no longer going to have PCs. They're going to buy these things on bulk, so people are going to use those. And as we saw with PCs, they try to market it as a home thing, but really when IBM put them in the offices en masse, that's when we started to get the trickle down at home. Yeah. And I think that's the way it will go. It will be corporate, and then it will come home after.
It's a shame though, because I quite like monitors. I don't know, something about them is interesting. I just don't like the cost of them.
Yeah.
Also, the MKBHD video, I also watched it. That was the latest Oculus. Latest of 2022 at that time.
Yeah, it was interesting how, because it read, or did it read? It didn't have a camera, but it could see your facial expressions and project them onto your emoji that you had on there, your kind of avatar. Yeah. And then you could look at people in the space. And I thought that potentially could be really good. But what was scary is it could actually take your real likeness and put it on in front of you.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that. I kind of... So people really took the mick out of that when it came out. That they looked like Mii characters from the Wii. Yeah, I kind of liked it. I liked the Mii characters from the Wii. I'm guessing that people were getting more annoyed at the fact that he was advertising it as being up-to-date graphics and looking exactly like you're in a meeting with someone. I don't know. I would quite like to be in a meeting and see a me version of a representation of someone.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're going to be in a virtual world, why should you have the same face that you've had for the last ever?
Yeah.
I remember PlayStation 3 had a... Did you ever have a PS3?
Yes, I've got one next to me, actually.
Okay, so they used to have an application called Home.
Ooh.
Servers are not existing anymore. And Home was the first time. There was also a program called Second Life that everyone was on, but I didn't have that. Home was the first time that I realized that, oh, you can have this other life and actually have currency in this other life. And I'm not talking about money, but like social currency and status and community and conversation. And for a bit I did play that. I'd just turn on my PlayStation and be this other person and, you know, buy a new pair of Adidas trainers from the shop. And the potential is endless for this AR VR future.
This reminds me of what's that movie called? Ready Player One.
Yes.
We're entering that life of Ready Player One now, aren't we? We're getting to that point slowly.
Yeah, and it's people are ready to adopt that now.
I will say that one huge problem that I've heard about the AR, this isn't fully confirmed. This is because there's a lot of speculation going on around it at the moment because it's not released yet. It's supposed to be released towards the end of this year, I believe. What I've heard is it's not targeted towards games, which I understand that Apple don't want it to be seen as just a games only. Yeah. I just feel like if you're putting out a new bit of technology, the easiest way to get people to use it is to have games with it.
Okay, here's my question to you then. Has it worked for anybody else?
I think the main reason why people use Windows is because it's widely open and they have DirectX. I mean, the only reason why I'm on Windows is because I can use Adobe as well as playing games. When I go to Apple, I can't play games. But I do understand what you mean there. There are some bits of technology when they went, this is for gaming, and it failed.
Well, no, specifically with VR and AR, has it been taken on by the masses because it plays games?
It's had an increase because of games. If it was just there was the Google Arts and full graphics people that were making cars out there, but that never really picked up. But there was early Vive when they released the roller coaster demo, and that automatically made people want to get that. I know that VR existed for a while before that. Thank you, Virtual Boy. But it never really picked up as much. It was that roller coaster test that made people go, I want to be on a roller coaster but sat in my living room in my pants.
Yeah, I mean, I just know that Apple is sitting there with their advanced statistics, and they know conversion rates, and they know that chatter online and conversations in kind of like rooms, do they convert into sales? And they must be looking at something like that and thinking, well, games are not our avenue. Games are not what we're going to lead with. But we'll see. We'll see. I don't really need to talk about it because I haven't got £3,000 to spend on VR or AR or whatever it's going to be. If I had $3,000, I'd buy a new MacBook.
My hope is that they're going to release this one as the Pro. So any if they release it as this is the Apple AR headset Pro, long name I know, but that kind of makes everyone understand what level it's supposed to be at. This is for people who are willing to spend that money and get that experience. But if people want just the basics, the Apple AR will be released later, is what I feel like that should be done. I don't think Apple will do it, but it would make sense if they did it that way.
AR is, I'm sorry, but I see AR as a productivity tool for, you can imagine Amazon workers in a factory all wearing AR, or post office workers in the sorting office wearing AR, or people like in kind of, it will make you partially, what do they call it? It'll make you a bit of a robot. You'll be a bit of a Terminator, and you'll be able to do your job more efficiently. And then you'll take it off and give it back to your boss at the end of the day, and then you'll be gone.
I agree with you that it will be an incredibly useful utility.
Yes.
I just think to get that utility technology out there, you need entertainment in it as well.
Okay.
Because if you think about it, with PCs, a lot of people were getting them for business at the beginning.
Yeah.
Then there was DOS games that were being released.
I remember those.
When people started getting DOS games at home and playing them because they were running them off floppy disks and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right.
If they didn't have games, I don't think people would have them as much. I think we would still get the technology that we've got now. It would just take longer.
What about mobile phones though? Because I'd say AR is going to be closer to the mobile phone revolution.
Yeah, I agree. There's nothing I can say about that one. I just entirely agree with you on that bit.
Because phones kind of, it's weird. They had this level, and I didn't grow up with a mobile phone. My first mobile phone I had I was 16, and at that point, in those 2 years between 16 and 18 for me, it went from maybe 10% of the people I know being aware of what a mobile phone is to every single person, mum, daughter, granddaughter, having a phone. Now, we thought that was saturation. That was the market done and everyone's going to have phones forever. Then, of course, the smartphone revolution happened. And now everyone's still got phones, but now we've got more expensive phones. There's another level to it. And what got us to spend that money was what you've said. It was the entertainment side of it.
Yeah.
So maybe AR might be, we all end up getting it because we need it, just like we thought we needed phones. But then Apple are thinking, then we can introduce the entertainment and then we could just rinse you even more and take everything you've got. They're definitely thinking that we're going to take everything you've got.
That is true. Yeah. I mean, I can't really talk much about phones. I got a phone because it has nice lights in the back.
You got a really nice phone. I'm glad you were brave enough to step into that. Is it called a clear phone?
A nothing phone.
The nothing phone era, the nothing phone territory, because there are some risky Google phones out there or Android phones out there.
So I swapped to Android about 3, 4, no, maybe even 5 years ago because I was fed up with Apple. The last Apple iPhone that I owned was the iPhone 5.
Great phone.
Because after the iPhone 5, they released the iPhone 6. And I was like, I'm not owning that. That looks horrible, and it broke instantly.
It was bending, yeah.
I'm not a fan of Apple phones since that point. I think now that they've got too many cameras on them, they just don't look as nice. I'm glad that they went back to the harsh, like, square edges. They're a lot easier to grab. I broke my dad's phone playing Just Dance. He owned the iPhone 6 at the time, and I chucked it across the room on accident.
It's like a bar of soap, wasn't it?
Yeah. And he will never let me down for that. But I've just never been a fan of those phones. So I swapped to the Google Pixel 3a after that.
Yeah.
I loved that phone. That was a very nice phone until it got slow and I had to get a new one. And I thought, why not go for a new company that has interesting ideas with definitely not slow, with low amount of bloatware. Notion? Nothing.
Yeah. I like mobile phones, as I said before, I think it's saturation point now. We're not going to get much more. And so it's a great time to explore. And there's some really good affordable options out there. One of my colleagues just got the Pixel. What are they up to now? 7?
I think it might be the 7. Yeah.
So he got the 6A, which is like their kind of cheap essential phone right now. And it was £300. And it can do everything my iPhone can do.
That's £100 cheaper than this phone.
There you go. And I think that's because we've reached a point at which mobile phones are going to get incrementally better now. People are going to upgrade every 3 years. I used to upgrade every single year and queue up to upgrade. That hasn't happened for years.
That was one problem I found with this phone is I'm used to the mentality of you get a phone, you go until it dies.
Yeah.
But I kind of forgot that the Nothing Phone 2 is going to get released this year. And I kind of want to know what it's going to look like. And the temptation is there.
Just admire it from afar. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
I I recently watched an episode from Mac Address, which is a Linus Tech Tips owned channel, and they were talking about what your dream Apple products. If you could have your dream Apple setup where you only Apple, what would yours be?
What are things that don't exist yet?
No, of things that are currently released, because there's no way that all of us own like the Mac Studio display or
I think you know what? Sadly, I think I own most of their products that I want. not most of their products, but most of the products that I want. I guess so. Right now, I'm sitting in my studio and I'm just looking around. And I've got a Mac Mini M1. I've got my AirPort Extreme, old but still works really well.
Apple Wait, what was that?
AirPort Extreme. So AirPort Extreme was Apple used to make this kind of small tower, and it's basically a Wi-Fi router with a hard drive built in. So you can redistribute your Wi-Fi from your house, and you can also back up AirTime all of your Apple products.
Really? Yeah. I've never seen this.
It's great. They no longer make it, but it still works with the latest OS. So I have that. I'm sitting here with an iPhone and a MacBook in front of me. And I don't really think Apple do. I'm not interested in the Apple TV at all. I used to have it years ago. I think Google alternatives are just much better than that, and Amazon. And I probably just want the Mac Studio, but I would wait. If I could have any Apple product, I'd wait to see what they do with their, the Mac Pro.
If I had to go entirely Apple, there would be quite a few things I'd have to buy, because at first I'd have to replace all the equipment I currently own. So I'd have to get a desktop one, so that'd be the Mac Studio for me. I wouldn't get the displays.
Would you go Max or Ultra? What would you go for?
I would go Max.
Okay, yep.
I don't think, even though I do editing, I don't do that heavy amount of editing. I don't do 4K. I just do 1080p and absolutely kill everything by putting too many layers on After Effects.
Yeah.
But so I'd have to go the Mac Studio. I wouldn't go for their keyboard. I would still stick to going for something else. I might get the trackpad. I've heard that it's got interesting gestures. I wouldn't use it as my main mouse. I'd probably just keep it to the side and use it when I had to. Mm-hmm. Now, here's an interesting part to me. If I had, I don't know if I'd get a Mac laptop like you've got, the M1 laptop.
Yeah.
Or would I get the iPad? Because they've recently become very close to being the same. But I like the idea of having an iPad. I see many people run both. I just don't feel like you need to run both.
It's interesting. I don't think you would appreciate having an iPad over a MacBook. The limitations are just, there are too many limitations with the OS, but they are beautiful screens and they pair up really nicely with MacBooks. So why not have both if you can have it all?
I just imagine it being a very good notepad, really. I'd kind of just use it as a podcast notepad.
Yeah, I need a new iPad. I've got an iPad Pro from 2017, and you have to tap a certain area of the screen to make it listen to your input touches, and then every so often it turns off. But I can't. iPads are £1,000. I can't justify that anymore.
No, I know. It's ridiculous. I own an iPad Air that I haven't turned on in about a year and a half.
Right.
And I think that's from 2015.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that would be like now to use.
I'll tell you what, there's one other Apple product I've got with me that I would change, and that's my Apple Watch. I've got the Apple Watch 4. Again, I think it's 2017, and I would definitely go for the Ultra, the Apple Watch Ultra. I want that thing. I want that thing.
You want that?
If anyone's listening and they want to send me a gift, I want that thing.
I'm intrigued because for me the Apple Watch Ultra, that's the really powerful one for people who go hiking and
things
stuff
like that. Yeah,
that seems like overkill.
Do you know what? I like the big I like the big watch face. I like the battery life, and it's rugged. I like it. It's brighter. I'd love to have it. I'm never going to buy it because it's £800. You know,
I like the always on display. That looks nice, especially the red one.
I used to wear chunky G-Shock watches, so they were Casio G-Shocks, and it's just like a G-Shock in terms of its size and weight, but it's Apple.
I have always had this problem with these smartwatch products is I get too distracted by them. I spend most of the day now going, ooh, steps. I haven't quite got there. So I kind of gave up doing them. They became too distracting too quickly.
Right. Okay. I think I've sat next to you and seen your phone flashing 3 times a minute.
Shut up.
And I think what you have to do, and maybe it's a benefit of me being of a slightly older generation, is when I was younger, we used to have, you can Google this, we used to have a phone line by a company called Ionica. And they were like the alternative to BT. And their selling point was you can have 3 phone numbers in your house that all ring the same line. So my mum gave me my own number and my sister her own number. And when her phone used to ring, I used to say, Mum, your phone's ringing. It has a different ringtone on a landline. And she would ignore it. And I used to say, why are you ignoring the phone? She said, Eli, when the phone rings, it's inviting me to answer it. It's not demanding I answer it. And that stuck with me forever. And with social media and with phones, I don't have notifications on. My phone never flashes. My watch never flashes. I look at it when I'm ready, and then I reply to people that I want to reply to. And the Apple Watch doesn't bother me because of that reason. Apart from Siri, that goes off all the time when I put my hand in the air.
Before the recording, it went off.
When I'm teaching and I put my hand high above my head, as I do, I'm very animated. It says, sorry, I can't tell you that.
I find it funny that every time that you teach me in that room that we're in, you always reverse into the printer.
Do I?
Every time.
Oh, I haven't noticed. I'm going to notice it all the time now.
Anyway, That's great. Should probably wrap this up now because that is actually every topic that I had on the list.
Brilliant.
You can check out Eli's work on WTKA or on YouTube, or follow me at macblair at mastodonapp.co.uk. You can send questions to us on Twitter or Mastodon at PressRedPod. Or actually, I think I literally just changed it to PressRedFM. Try one of those. Thank you for listening to